Yeah. Okay. So let's get into the spreadsheets 101. So, what is a spreadsheet? And so, to be honest, some of you may not know this or have seen this before, but back in the day, accountants used to, they keep the books, so to speak. And some of you actually own your own business and you do something similar, at least from what I've heard from you. You keep the books, how much expenses are, what's the cost that you're spending on products, how much are you bringing in, what's your revenue. Then you figure out what your profit is. You figure out how much your taxes be, or you give all the information to someone, but you keep all these receipts and there's all this information, right? And so you write all this stuff down, and you probably end up making what look like tables in order to hold that information, right? And so people have been doing this for years. Like think back to Blaise Pascal. We talked about like in the 1600s. His dad was an accountant for taxes, so this has been done for a long time. He used to keep records, and then or he would keep records, or the business owners would keep records when they come to him. And that's when Blaze is like, "Hey, I'm gonna build this calculator to make the job easier for my dad, and I can help him too." And then he's made a couple more to sell to some other accountants in that time period. But that's in the 1600s. He's building a calculator to help them do those calculations. Imagine keeping all those records. Even back then, can you imagine that, having to write all that stuff down? Like they didn't have pencils the way that we do now. They didn't, and they had their pens were dipping in some form of ink and writing on some parchment. So that's, I mean, I'm just like imagining how difficult that is. But we moved forward and we were still doing pretty much the same thing. We had nicer books that had these blocks already built in it. It already had a grid system on it, so it made it easier to write your column headers and your row headers, and then just entering your data for that page. It made it a lot easier. So those things were called workbooks. Uh, and they were on a spreadsheet. It was a sheet that you could spread data across, a spreadsheet. So it was very easy to look at. And so when the Microsoft, when they created one of the first applications they had was Excel, and that name stuck around. But the ideal of it was that, what do people need in the workplace? Oh, every business needs two things. They need a way to type stuff, so a word processor, and they need a way to store their data and possibly do some calculations. They need some kind of workbook. So that's where spreadsheets came into play. And so a spreadsheet is just one sheet within that entire workbook. So if you tore out a sheet from that, what looks like grid paper, um, then that would be a spreadsheet. So a collection of spreadsheets is a workbook. And so that's been the same since who knows how long back. And so they brought that over into the world. So um, yeah, that's pretty much it. There's some other history stuff that you can look at. Like here, I'm linking it really to the tabulation machine, because that's how they had the census, um, how they had things taken in. And he literally had something that looks kind of spreadsheet. And he would put it in, and you would pull a lever which punch holes. So if the holes are already punched in certain areas, meaning that there was data there, then it would read that electronically. It would send electronic signals, so that would get recorded. It's actually really cool. Like if anyone ever gets a chance to go to the computer history museum, I forgot what it's technically called. But if anyone ever gets a chance to do so in California, I suggest going, because they actually have one live and you get to play with it. You get to enter your quote unquote census information on the second version of this. They have the second version of the tabulation machine still there, so you can see how it was done. It was upgraded from the first one. I think the first one is there too. The second one is there and operational, and they actually have like some people there. It's kind of funny because they advertise it as if, no, these people used to actually work on this machine, and I'm like, there's no way that they're 100 years old, but they have they hire elderly people to sit down with uniforms on and work the machine as if they're actually working right then and there, unless the government is secretly having them actually work. It could be a case. They're tricking people to come in and do census that way. Possible. I'm slightly sarcastically joking, but it could be possible. Okay. But yeah, it's cool. It's a cool place to go check out. I really want to go check it out. We should do a field trip. Have South Mountain pay for it. That'd be cool. All right. But so yeah, workbooks. That was the whole purpose of all this. So yeah, workbooks collection of those sheets together. Now we're gonna be looking at creating and opening workbooks, saving workbooks, data entry. I'm gonna pretty much show you the basics of Excel today, and get you into entering data, and then we'll look at some cool things with it because I don't want to assume that everyone knows how to use Excel. Looking at some of your introductions and some other things that you all have said, it seems like everyone has used Excel in some shape or form. So I'm gonna just touch on some things that are a little bit more than basic today as well, or this week, to try to get you through, not to get you through your assignments, but to go over some things that are important for you to know. And then we'll dive into some heavier stuff next week as well. There's so much within Excel, so it's very important to understand its uses, and honestly just to dive into it. Um, it's the most commonly used application in the world. Um, I'm serious. Like more, there are people that type papers and create forms and um, reports and things like that in Excel. They don't type it up in Word. Like it is literally the most common one used. And people they look at sometimes when they see those papers and stuff, they're like, why would you do that? Until they see it printed out and they're like, oh, how'd you get it to indent in this fashion? I can't get that in Word. Like there's so much that you can do with it. It's crazy. But anyway, just like as usual, we have an open source version. So this is free for anyone to ever use. Open Office. All of the Open Office stuff is no longer supported. So it's open source, meaning that you can download it, look at the source code, and make any changes to it that you want, and make it into your own personalized application. But because it's no longer supported, that means there's no one that you can go to and things like, oh, this isn't working properly. Well, too bad. It's how it is now. You have to fix it on your own. Um, but Google Sheets is another one that is somewhat free. The reason I say somewhat free is because you do need to have a Google account in order to use so. So now they have all your records. But yeah, it is free to use. But for you as a Maricopa student, you have the wondrous use of Microsoft Excel. One other thing I'll say about Google Sheets, if any of you ever have like a form or a survey that you want to give out to people, Google Forms is a great use for that. And when you do so, there's an option within it for your responses to come out on a spreadsheet, which will automatically make it a Google Sheet. It makes it a lot easier for you to analyze the data that you got from those forms. Imagine like doing surveys by handing out little survey cards. Okay. That means you have to go back and record all that information by manually entering it into a spreadsheet and then analyzing it. Or you could hand the person a iPad or something. It's like, here, fill out the survey real quick. Or go to this link and fill out a survey, or send them an email so they can click and do it. And then it automatically records all of that in a spreadsheet for you that you can see instantly as it updates. Which would you rather do? I hope you're going to say the second one because it makes it a lot easier. A lot easier. So you can record results from people and put it back in a spreadsheet and then do your analysis. So there are a couple of links in here from GCF Learn Free in case you have questions about doing certain things in Excel. So we're going to move forward. One other thing I will say, as I had mentioned before, I do teach an Excel class on campus, 2 Excel classes on campus. First one's called Excel Spreadsheets. It's I want to say the basics of, I say it's the basics of Excel. It's entering data. It's how do you change the appearance of what's going on, like the fill color, merging, centering, conditional formatting, and then we get more to a little bit more advanced things about how to manipulate data, do some what if analysis, there's a couple other things, and then we finish up with statistical analysis and building macros, which we'll do in this class next week. We'll look at the basics of building a macro next week. And then we have an advanced course where we go into a lot more detail, do a lot more manipulation of data. with pivot tables, which we'll learn about in here, and tons of other things. If you have two workbooks, how to compare them to each other to see like if there's any changes and things like that. So CIS 114 DE and CIS 214 DE. Some of you will have to take it just because of your majors. And if you have a elective available and you want a or you need another CS tag, those classes are available and they are a lot of fun. So we're gonna look at some basics here. So I'm gonna go and open up Excel. Hopefully everyone can see clearly. If not, let me know and I can zoom in and increase the increase the display settings so that you can see better. But we have Excel here. Just like in Word, we do have a ribbon up top. This time it's green. Word was blue because that's the color that Microsoft designated to Word. Excel gets this green. Each of the Office applications has its own specific color. We have the same thing up top. We have a quick access toolbar, which starts off with save, undo, and redo, and then you can customize it. We have the title in the, of your document. In this case, our workbook. Our documents are our workbooks here. Up here in the middle, you have me because I'm logged in. And then we have our minimize, restore size, and our close. This button here allows you to change what part of the ribbon is viewable. So right now, I always do show tabs and commands, and I will leave it at that setting. I know people that do this, auto hide, which literally the ribbon's gone. Oh, this way I can see more of the screen. If you like that, that's fine. But sometimes they find it harder to like, wait, how do I get back up there? And they don't realize that you click up here and it brings it back down. Or you can always change it back. Show tabs would literally just show the tabs. So I'm mentioning this because I know when my Office application wasn't working, sometimes I would say go to the Home tab. This is what I mean, Home tab. Okay. And if within each tab, there are groups. And recall that the groups are named at the bottom of each of these sections. You kind of see these lines separating each group. So if I say Home tab alignment group, I go here. Notice I'm not just doing this. This is what most people do. So I'm not pointing out to anyone in the past. Everyone everyone I've known has done this at some point. I think I do it still sometimes when I'm looking for something because I'm like, oh, I know where it is, even though it's telling me to go to a certain spot. But Home tab, if I say go to Home tab, the styles group, the conditional formatting section, this is what most people do. Oh, there's conditional formatting. Okay. But there was so much information to tell me exactly where to go. I said Home tab, styles group, conditional formatting. That shortens where I have to look. I don't have to be going around looking for stuff. Or what if I said go to the middle, go to the Home tab alignment middle align command. I don't see anything that says middle align command. I would have to know Home tab alignment, and then these guys have words on it, so I'm assuming it's not them. That says top align. Oh, that says middle align. So I found it. So using the screen tip would be helpful in that case. So I'm saying that because you don't want to, if there are specific instructions on where to go to do something, use it. You don't have to try to figure out where it is and like, search around like, oh, I don't see the word there. I'm also mentioning this because I have had times when people would message me and say, I can't find da 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 at all. I'm like, well, the instruction said go to the Home tab, the style group. Click on Sales Styles. Oh, well, where's that? Okay, so again, these are your tabs up here. Under each tab, you have groups, and then groups are named at the bottom of them. Okay, that will make navigating through any of the Office applications very easy or easier. All right, so I'm gonna go back to showing my regular stuff. And we'll look at different commands underneath these tabs in these groups as well. So beneath our ribbon, and in this case our ribbon in groups, we have the formula bar. This is where you enter in formulas. Each cell has a formula in it. When you are calculating a formula, there's an equal sign that you will begin with within here, and we'll see that later. Whenever you are just typing into a cell, say if I want this cell to say my name, notice that the cell also changes. So the formula bar literally is the formula that goes into the current cell. If I want to know what current cell I'm on, over here in the name box, it'll tell me. It'll mention the cell address. And so the cell address is the column and then the row. So in this case, this is A1 because I'm in column A and row 1. Okay. So there are, I don't know why I forgot this number. There are thousands of available columns. They go from A to Z, and then they begin at A, B, A, C, all the way to AZ. Then they start BA, BB, all the way to BZ, and it keeps going like that. It can go triple, quadruple letters. I don't know why anyone ever has had that many columns. I have seen some examples before. So it's definitely possible, but sometimes when that happens, they probably should actually change their data and do something known as melting, which is actually pretty cool. Melting does is it looks for within a column, like where you may have a column title that should actually be a cell value, like underneath a different column. And so it'll take all that stuff and put it in. Example would be if I had like let's say I kept each year as a separate column from like 1989 to 2020, and underneath that I put how much money I made, income, and then the amount of money I spent. So why would I have pretty much I have like 3 rows being utilized, but I have what is that, 31 actually yeah I have 31 columns. Why do I need 31 columns when I could have it go into, in that case, 3 columns and then have 31 rows, so 32 rows. So it looks a lot better that way, and that's called melting. Is when you make that transition. Um, so it's like when you get um, a wide short table, you melt it and it becomes tall and skinny. But then you can go the other way too, which is called casting. When you have a tall, skinny one, you can go to a short, wide one. Anyway, maybe going a little too deep there, so I'll try my best not to. But anyway, so yeah, so we have our columns. They, like I said, they go on forever, and there's like 16 million. I think they actually increased the number. Yeah, they did. They increased the number recently. Rows that are possible. Now that I have seen utilized. I've seen it utilized so much that they had to and create another notebook that continued on from the first one. Or excuse me, another sheet that continued on from the first one, using more than 16 million rows. It was crazy. But there's a lot of data out there. And Excel makes it easy for you to manipulate it. So yeah. Another cool thing about this guy here, each of these cells in the name box, is that I can literally name this something if I want to. I can call this name. And I click on everywhere else, they have their cell addresses based off the column in the row, and this still does too. This is still A1. You may have seen it, but it also now says name. And the cool thing about name box is I can go to any cell from here. If I want to go to E5, I type E5 here, it goes there. I don't have to even capitalize it. So if I want to go to G6, it'll go there automatically. Another thing about that is that because each cell has a cell reference, we can also look at multiple cells at one time using what's known as a cell range. And so a cell range, I'll do this range here. It starts at the top left corner and it ends at the bottom right corner. So even if you just have two things, this would be the top right corner, this would be the bottom left, top left corner, this would be the bottom right corner. So if I want to look at, or I want to select the cell range B2, D5, I could literally up here type B2 colon D5. And the colon is what lets Excel know that this is a cell range. This is going to be my top left corner. This is going to be my bottom right corner. And it's going to get everything else in between. Okay. There may be times where you want to select multiple cells. For instance, I just selected H4 and F6, but nothing else is selected. To do that, H4 and F6, I could literally type up here H4, comma, F6. The comma lets it know that I want this, and then I want you to select this next thing. Okay. And you can have combinations of these if you wanted to. I said B2, D5, comma, H4, comma, F. Okay. Do you have to use a name box to select those? No. You can just use your mouse. Why would anyone ever want to use a name box? If I have 40 something columns or 40 rows, and I know I'm going to use all 40 of them, but say I only go from A to C, I can just say A1 to C40. It's a lot faster doing that than saying, oops, oh, I went past it. Now I gotta go back up. Oh, I found it. And it's very common for people to have much more than that. Even for you all, with some things that you may do in your other classes, I doubt you would just have like, 20 rows. So it makes it a lot easier to select using the name box. Okay, so those other things, this top corner here will select the entire sheet. You can add more sheets if you need to down here by clicking on this button that says new sheet. You can change the name of your sheet by double clicking here and typing in the name, or by right clicking on it and selecting rename. You could also insert a new sheet from here as well. You can make copies of sheets by right clicking. And what this does will allow you to move the sheet to possibly a new workbook or to be after a certain sheet. But you can also copy it. So say, for instance, I had an assignment where I had all this data I needed to. It was looking at the different temperatures in Arizona. So it was to see if summer is lasting longer or not. So I wanted to detect a change in when the unofficial end of summer was. And so I was doing it using multiple different ways. So I had the same data though. So instead of me like downloading the data, pasting it here, making this change onto another sheet, downloading it again, done, I just made copies of it. So I had to do 4 different methods. And so I took the data one time and then copied over the 4 different methods. That way I didn't have to worry about it again. Yeah. Oh yeah, something else with this that I think is cool is you can also change the tab colors. If you're like, I want this to be red, now it's red down here. And the cool thing is, so if you have another sheet, it'll be a little darker for you to note that it's not currently selected. And when you select it, it gets a little lighter. And if you want to, you can also click down here to move them and just move them back and forth, however you want to do that. So, and there's some other things that you can do with sheets that are a little more advanced that we won't talk about in this course. But if you want to know about it, let me know. Or you can take the Excel class. Here's your standard ruler or scroll bar. You have there's two of them, vertical and horizontal. And then you have your status bar as well down here. Notice it says ready because we're ready to go and use it. This guy we'll talk about next week what that is for. And we have our three different views here. So our normal view is the one that you all are most likely used to. Page layout. Just so you can see the header and footer. You can also see where the page ends from here. But it also shows us still the row and columns. And page break view, which allows you to tell what's going to be printed. So right now only A1 to B1 is printed. Okay. And then you can change the zoom here with the zoom ruler. Page break view will also allow you to move page breaks around if you had enough data. So, like normal. All right, cool. There we go. Once you go to page break view and page layout view, and you go back to normal, you will see these though. These are pretty much so you can visualize. This is where the page would end at this moment. So these little dotted lines let you know like that's the end of the page. And if you ever went past it, you could go to page break view and then just literally drag this guy over to wherever you want. So, all right. So those are like the basics of Excel. Are there any questions at this point in time?
Yeah. Is it possible to have just like your full name on one column, or does it have to be the two?
Okay. For me, my name is very, very long, so it fits over two of them. So that's a great question, and we're going to look at a way to manipulate that because at this point in time, it looks like it's in two columns, but it's actually not. If I go over here to B1, the formula bar says nothing's in B1 because nothing is. My name is only in the name cell or cell A1. So it looks like it's in this column, but that's because this column is not wide enough. I can increase or decrease the column widths by clicking this boundary here, holding it down. Right now it says it's at 64 pixels. I can drag that to wherever I want. And now it doesn't look like it's in column B anymore. Something else I could do, if it was closer to where it was, I double click on these boundaries and it'll auto fit so that whatever's in this column will all fit automatically. So it'll look for what's the largest thing and then it'll increase the column width to fit that. So what we just did can also be found in the Home tab, Cells group, Format command. So we go to Home tab. Let's see, where's the Cells group? Cells group. There's the Cells group. Format. I can modify my column widths here. I can also, as you can see, do the same thing with row heights and a couple other things that we won't really look at here. Something else I could do, which you guys will do in your assignment, so I don't want to get too on myself, but we can do what's known as a merge and center. So let's say I want it to be these two cells. I want it to completely cover those two cells. What I can do is I can select both of those cells, so A1 to B1. So A1, B1, that's the cell range. I can click on in Home tab in the alignment group and click on merge. So the drop down next to merge and center has merge across, it has merge cells, has unmerge and merge and center. Merge and center is the most common one. That's why you see that written here. When I do that, it merges the two cells and it also gives it an alignment that is centered. So notice here it says centered. Okay. Merge across is different from merge cells in that it will take the data that's there and also merge it. Cool thing to denote. So let's see, I put it back out. So I'm going to put something in cell B. I'm going to put Houston. So if I try to merge these two cells together, maybe say using merge and center, it's going to cause an error. Or more, I shouldn't say error. It causes a warning. Merging cells only keeps the upper left value and discards all other values. So if you are okay with that, then I can click OK, and then Houston would be gone. So you have to be mindful of that whenever you are, period. Whenever you do anything in Excel, anything, Excel will try to help you as much as it can, because I forgot what you call that technically. I can't think of the name, so I'll just say AI. But there's a difference in there's a difference in AIs. One is like based off certain rules, it does stuff for you automatically. And the other, I think that's it's machine learning, but there's a name for it. I can't remember what it is. But the other one is it literally is thinking. It's like building a network, kind of like how your brain works, and it thinks about things. So, but this is just an AI that automatically looks for certain things, and then it automatically will do things for you based off of what it sees, because it's been programmed that way. So, Excel will always try to help you with whatever it is you're doing. So, for instance, I have Christopher Stevens typed out there. If I come down here and I start typing Chris, it automatically thinks that, oh, you want Christopher Stevens. So it's trying to help me. Most people will, they see Excel give a suggestion, they just click enter. You shouldn't do that. You should look at what Excel is suggesting to you and see if it is exactly what you want. And see if it is exactly what you want. I'll give you another instance. So a lot of times people realize that Excel will do patterns for them. So if I say I want to go to 1 to 10, I have the number 1 here. I can do, in the bottom right hand corner, there's something known as a fill handle. And with a fill handle, what it does is it copies the formula that is in the cell to wherever you drag it to. So when I do this, notice the screen tip says 1. So there's a 2 there already. So I go to the next one. It still says 1. Why didn't it go to 3? I thought Excel was smart enough. I thought it was going to help you. Well, if we gave it a little more information, maybe it will. It says 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I went 11 and 10. So sometimes you have to, this is why it's important to not just, oh, Excel knows what it's doing. It's not true. There's no AI that just, the when I was talking about the machine one, that just knows what, oh, it knows what to do. It doesn't. None of them do. They do what they were programmed to do. In this case, it's trying to help you. You need to decide if it is helping you correctly or not. You tell it who's boss. Okay. And there's other things that are going to come up, especially when we start looking at this assignment. So another thing here, I just accidentally deleted that 1, and it looks like I'm stuck in this space, right? Because this is my insertion point, but this other thing selected. I may think I don't know what to do, and I messed up somehow. If you're ever in a cell and you don't know what to do, and you feel like you messed up and you can't figure out how to fix it, I wouldn't even try to fix it. This is what I personally do. I tell all my students to do the same. If you've ever seen, I think it's called Shawshank Redemption with Morgan Freeman. Someone in the chat can correct me if it's wrong. Have you ever seen a movie or the classic Fox series, Prison Break, starring that guy who later played Captain Cole on Flash? I can't remember his name right now. Something Worth. Anyway, they would, when you're in a cell, you got to escape. So if you're stuck in a cell like this, you press the key, it'll take it back to what it was before. So that's how I tell people remember that. If you're stuck in a cell, you escape. If you are actually stuck in a cell and you're in jail, do not try to escape. Just serve your time. Okay. This is a disclaimer. I don't want anyone saying, he told me to break out. Oh, okay. So let's get back over here. As I could go on all day. I'm trying to stick to what you all know or need to know, and then you guys can tell me what else you want to know. So So we talked about adjusting the column width. You saw where you could do the same thing with height. Oh yeah, let's look at wrap text. So another thing about this fitting here in this, it's fitting here in one column, but it looks like it's in two. Let's say I wanted it to stay this column width specifically. Well, it's still going past and looks like it's going to go over into the next column. What I can do is known as something known as wrap text. And what it does is it will keep the column width that's there, and it'll move anything else that's afterward into underneath it, but it'll still be in the same cell. If I do wrap text there, notice what happened? It moves Stevens down there. Maybe I would say, oh, okay, I'll give it a little bit more for the R. Okay. The wrap text can be very useful as well. All right. Yeah, format cells. Okay, cool. All right, any questions before I keep going about anything? I mean, I can tell you a bunch of stuff myself.
So the dotted line in the middle is what again?
So this is not actually here, but what this represents is where the page would end if I were to print right now. So if I had something over here, page 2, and I went to file print, so you can see a print preview. Notice it has my name there. That's on page 2. Because that dotted line was telling me where at this point in time the pages would end. And that only showed up because I went to page layout view or page break view. It will automatically show up after that. Actually, I think if you even go to print preview, it'll show up after that too, just so you can note where things are. But at that point in time, if I wanted to, I was like, no, I want page 2 to be on page 1. I can click page break view, and so you guys can see it. See, there's that line there, that line of demarcation that's saying this is page 1, this is page 2. And it's kind of hard to see, but it literally underneath it will say page 1 and page 2. So I'm going to zoom in. Hopefully that gets bigger. You guys see that? Like the words literally say page 1, page 2 kind of underneath, like it's almost as a watermark. It doesn't get printed out. It's just so that you visually can see that it's saying this is page 1 and this is going to print as page 2. If I want to, I can literally take this guy and drag it over. So now this whole thing's page 1. And if I go back to normal view now, you'll see that that dotted line is moved past J. If I were to print it, you would see that page 2 shows up on page 1. Okay. So that's what that that's what that line is for. It's just so that you can see where the page break would be. Other questions? Okay, let's look at some other things here. So we saw how it can do a pattern for you. Some other things to the note. Let's say I was putting my incomes on here. I wish I made this. I don't know why I just did that. So notice I even put a comment one. Oops. Nope. Go away. Nope. I didn't say you do that. There. No, go away. All right. So I can't see it because of the share screen part. But underneath right here, I'm assuming you all can see that it says number right now. I'm gonna change this to say this. Oh, no, it's just stuck that way now. So that says number. I believe it should say general now. Yes, cool. It's a good thing I know this stuff, otherwise I wouldn't be able to see anything. Um, so this one says number, and it says general. This should say general as well. Um, that's because whenever you type something in Excel, it automatically puts it as general, meaning it's going to be, it's just whatever it is. So whatever you type in there, we'll figure out that it's a number if it's a number, because when we try to add or do something else with it that numbers would do, it'll do it. If it's text, it'll do it. But you can denote specifically the format that it should have. So yes, even if it is actually text, I can give it a number format. There's text format as well. There are dates, and there's tons and tons of different ones here that you can change it to, and even customize and create your own. But the most common ones are known as accounting number format, which what accounting number format does is it will give it those commas after every three excuse me, after every three place values. It'll also end it with a decimal and two decimals showing. Okay. So another thing, yeah, I'll do it over here. Put 0.25 there. So it's a decimal. Notice it still says general. I'll get to what these mean in a second. But notice that this is 0.25 or 0.25 is what I type, but I got 0.25. This general. So it recognizes that this is probably going to be some number, but it's not going to say it is yet. Let's say I want to change that to a percent. If I click this percent one, because this is another common used one, that's why I get this on button. It automatically converts it to a percent for me. Cool thing about this is I can also increase or decrease the decimals that are there that are being shown. So I can increase a decimal because most people like at least two decimals showing. And decrease a decimal. The last style that's very common is called comma style. Comma style is the same exact thing as accounting, except it doesn't have a dollar sign on it. And I'll tell you the reason for that too. But before we share the reason, notice how this guy has all these pound signs, as people say nowadays, hashtags. These hashtags will tell you that there is a possible error that Excel sees. So if you see one hashtag followed by some type of letters, they're trying to tell you what the type of error that Excel is expecting to occur has occurred. If you see a bunch of hashtags together, such as this, what that means is that I can't see. So like it's hey, you can't see what's underneath here right now. You need to increase your column width. So I decrease my column width. Now I can see everything that I need to see. So it puts a dollar sign in front, but notice it looks the exact same as comma style, except for the dollar sign. It is literally the difference. There is a reason for this. The reason for this is because whenever people use workbooks, and those of you in accounting, you probably have noticed this. Whenever you have a balance sheet or some sheet with money, the first one usually has dollar sign, and the last one has a dollar sign. This denotes when you are beginning with money, and will let people know the type of money you have and that you're dealing with. And the bottom one will let them know that this is the end of what I'm doing. So, for instance, if I wanted to add these guys up, speaking of which, if I wanted to add them up, remember I said any calculations that you would do in Excel, they would begin with an equal sign. And I could say, let's add A4 plus B4 plus, A4 plus A5 plus A6. Notice that I clicked on one and it automatically populated here. These other two I typed. Doesn't matter which one you do. Lowercase, uppercase doesn't matter as well. It will recognize it. Other cool things to the note is that it color coordinates it so that you know, hey, this is the one that I just entered. This is what it selected. That's kind of cool. So do that. Notice that it gives it that dollar sign automatically. again, Excel trying to help. In this case, it did the right thing. But this would be based off of if it's doing some type of calculation for multiple cells, it'll say, is there a certain number format that it has? If so, let me keep the same one because I'm going to assume the user wants the same one. And then you could just tell it if you didn't. You could just change the number format. But remember, Excel's trying to always help you. You just have to check to make sure it did stuff correctly. All right. So yeah, but if you guys look at this, you might say, why is this important? Why is it set it up this way? How is this different from what was there before? So what was there before, I'm going to type right above it. Notice that it's kind of indented it a little bit forward. Also, notice how all those decimals now line up. Even the commas line up. I'm going to do one more thing on here that a lot of people do when they're dealing with money. And that's, I'm going to change this last one since it's the total. I'm going to give it a special cell style because 50 taught me to switch the styles up so the money can pile up. You all can know where that good song that came from, two songs that came from. I'll give you brownie points. But these all line up great. And you may recall from when you first learned how to add, especially larger numbers, your instructor may have told you to line up the decimals and line up the commas because it'll make it easier to add. Yes, that principle is still true here. They also told you when you're doing a total, you take your numbers, and they told you to do something right above your answer. So they told you to put a line so you could differentiate what you're adding and what your result is. And then some of your instructors, as you move forward in your schooling, they probably even told you to like circle your answer or to put two lines underneath it. These all came from somewhere. These all came from how people kept the books, so to speak. So this is called a total cell style, meaning that it's going to do exactly that. It's going to put a line above it so you know that everything above it was being added to get to here. And I'll put two lines but underneath it to let you know this is the end result. So I'm going to select this guy, and I'm going to give it a total cell style. So that's cell styles are in the Home tab in the Styles group. Oh. In Cell Styles command. You can change to many cell styles, as you can see. They have different types of fonts, colors. The most common ones that are used are normal, note. Like if you want to point out something to someone, it's yellow. It's like kind of like a warning. And then the headings. Notice that total is not a heading nor a title, but it's in the title and heading section because it's commonly used. And this is the one we want, the total cell style. It also gives it a bold look because that's the important part, right? You want to know how much money I got. What's my total? It's important, so it's bold. Like you're bolding your answer, okay? All right. A couple other things there. All right, so one more thing I want to discuss and talk about, then we can look at the assignment. So the last thing I want to talk about is conditional formatting. So you all know how to change formats, or we've talked about it, like how you can change this to accounting, percent, comma. You also can change the font of it. So you can change the font type. You can change the font size. You can change the bold, italics, underline. Those things you all are used to. You're even used to changing font color, possibly. Well, you should, yeah, you are, because you had to do that in your flyer project. You had to change the fonts, right? But what may be different in this case is a couple of things. The fill color, for one, which is kind of like the background color of each cell. If I click this drop down here, there are tons of different ones that are available, and more colors if you click on more colors. And you get kind of a color wheel as an option. You can even enter in RGB values if you want, or hexadecimal, or I forgot those other things. It's like the four of them, like the hues, alpha. I forget what they are. It's like newer stuff. you guys may notice, like, if you have ever played a video game system before or ever hooked up a Blu-ray player or anything like that, you used to have like the red, yellow, and the white um, chords. Um, so I want to say yellow was video and red and white were your left and right audio. But then it changed and you had like, see, blue, orange, and green, and they did different things. That's had to do with the colors. But anyway, I'm getting to it. But that's what that same kind of thing is when I'm talking about colors. That's where that comes from. But let's say we wanted to change these based off of a certain condition. So yeah, right now we only have three things. So I could, like, say for instance, if something was less than 10,000, I want to make it red. And if it's at 10,000, I want to make it yellow, and if it's more than 10,000, I want to make it green. If that's the case, then I could just go here and just say, okay, well, you're going to be red, and okay, you're going to be yellow. Okay, you're going to be green. But let's say these numbers change though later. I want to automatically do that formatting for me. So there's a way to format based off certain conditions. It's called conditional formatting. So if you go to the Home tab, we go back to the Styles group. There's a conditional formatting. This lets you manipulate it based off of certain conditions. So first I'm going to select this information. And let's look at a couple of things here. So I'm just going to show you these three things here, and then we'll look more at these later. So data bars. What data bars does, it literally creates what looks like a bar chart behind the cells that are selected. And so it says, what's the highest one of these? Okay, I'll fill it up all the way. And then everything else will be filled up comparatively. So notice, like right here, when I do it, the A5, it fills it up all the way because the 20,000 is the largest out of those three cells. Notice that the 10,000 fills up about halfway because 10,000 is half of the 20,000. And notice that the 3 fills up a little less than a 6 away, because 3,000 compared to the 20 is about 15% of the way. So, or is 15% of the way. That's how that works. Color scale works in a similar fashion, except it colors it based off of the value. And so the green value is the higher one, and then it goes to red for the lowest stuff. So it also does a comparison, and it tints it based off of the percentage, how close it is to that value. This is not what I meant by the example where I was saying I could change it to green, change this one to yellow, and change this one to red. Because this is actually not doing that. This is going from green to red based off of percentage. So it's like notice that 3,000 is not actually red, it's reddish, right? Something similar to that is icon sets. Same thing, same principle. Based off of how stuff is relative to one another, it'll give us different symbols. Notice how in each of these examples that green has always been like for the good, for the best. Red has been bad, and yellow's like in the middle somewhere. Same thing with your traffic lights, right? Green, you go. Yellow, oh, green, you go. Red, stop. Yellow, you should know that you should be getting ready to stop. And some people speed up, but that's not what it says. Also, in your back of your car lights, I used to tell this to my niece when I was teaching her about driving. If you look at the back at when people hit their brake lights, red, it's red because you should stop. But when they just have their lights on, it's like cautionary. So in the middle of the night, someone has their lights on, you can see it's yellow, so it's cautionary. Oh, there's a car in front of me. So anyway, just a cool thing to think about. That's what those do. So yeah, we could use this color scale and it would be done for us, right? But as I said, that doesn't give us those actual colors. It just gives us close to it. We want to be very exact. We should use rules to denote what we're going to do. So I'm going to tell you about these top bottom rules because we won't use them. In this case, you may use it on, no, you won't use it on your homework either, but you may use it in your other homework for this. So top bottom, what it does is it will look for the top whatever. So in this case, it says top 10 items, but it doesn't have to be 10. I can literally change it to be top 1 item if I want to, or top 50 items if I want to. But it'll look through and say, okay, what are those highest values? Okay, this is what I'm gonna change this to. Okay, again, that's not what we want. Bottom does the same. The percent ones does it based off percent, not number of items. Above a certain average, below average. So it'll get the average of those numbers and it'll highlight things that are above it or highlight things that are below it. But the one we actually want is the highlight cell rules. This gets very specific for you. So you can tell it, I want you to highlight this if it meets this condition. So, which I guess they technically all are doing, but this allows you to be very specific about your values. For instance, we said that if our value was greater than 10,000, we are going to make it green. Again, red, yellow, and green are the most common ones used. That's why that's here. But I don't want to do that. I'm going to customize mine. I want to make the font color be automatic. I'm going to make it bold because I like to today. And I'm going to make the fill color green, like I said. Also, if it's equal to 10,000, I'm going to make it yellow. This time I'm going to be lazy and just pick the one they gave me. And if it's less than 10,000, I'm going to make it red. But this time I'm going to make it do a red border. That's not a thick enough border. I need thicker. So now I'm going to go red border. But I'm going to customize it. I'm going to go to border. Oh, it doesn't give me more than one. Oh, that sucks. All right. I wanted to change the border to be thicker, but it's not gonna. I guess I'm gonna go with the red text then. Okay. So this is 3 different ways. In your homework, I give you specific instructions. I want you to actually highlight the background. If you do anything else with the text and font and stuff, that's fine. But I want the backgrounds to be colored. You know what? Screw that. As long as you use the colors in some way, have fun with it. I want you to make it your own. So, but now I've done that, it automatically highlights it based off. So if I wanted to go in here and this say this value up here changed to 5,000, it automatically changes to that red text. This changed to 13,000, automatically changes to that green. Change to 10,000, change to that yellow. Question. Okay, cool. Yep. All right, so that's conditional formatting. Any questions? All right, let's look at your first assignment for this week. That is due on tomorrow evening. Woo! Okay, it's not bad. It's not bad. This is pretty much just to go over these basics and make sure you got them. The most difficult part for most people is the conditional formatting. So I try my best to go through the instructions particularly. So in cell A1, well, open up a new workbook, save it with your last name underscore first name. Cell A1, type your name, similar to what I did today. Merge and center cells A1 and D1 and give it a title cell style. A1, D1, merge center, styles was under styles, title cell style. I'm done. A2, type the text current points. Merge and center A2, D2, give it a heading 1 cell style. Current points. A2, D2. Heading 1 cell style. Merge and center. You could have done the merge center then heading on style you want it to. A3, assignment name. B3, total points received. C3, total points possible. Okay. Then it says go to the grades page and record the needed data in the appropriate cells for 5 of your graded assignments. This data should go in cell A4 to C8. Use the wrap text command, adjust the column width or row height so that all the information comfortably fits. It's supposed to be comfortably, not comfortable, but comfortably fits on your screen. So I can enter my assignment names here. Get rid of all this stuff by clearing everything. Whatever my first assignment was called, I know that was like technological experiences. I'm just shortening this. Your Gmail assignment, your Gmail Canvas assignment, your ergonomics, green computing. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll just put info security. So I just picked 5 assignments. It says total points received. So I just write down the points that I got on it. So you can go to your grade thing and look at it. I'm just making up stuff right now. Points possible. Okay. Then in D4, it says type equals B4 C4. Not the quotes. Equals B4 divided by C4. It then says use the fill handle to copy the information from D4 to D5, D8. Copying it. Change the percent to percent number format. Use conditional formatting so that if it's less than 70%, give it a red background or red text or whatever you want. If it's between 70 and 90, yellow or whatever you want. If it's greater than 90, green or whatever you want. And that's it. So conditional formatting, cell rules. Look at this, greater than, less than, between. So everything should be fairly simple. Oh, I've gone over a minute because I talked too much. I apologize. Are there any questions about your assignment for this week?
None at all.
Oh, sweet. Most people say this is the easiest assignment, and this is the one where most people mess up. And it's because of conditional formatting. So if you make a mistake, don't worry about it. You'll get another chance to go back and fix it. So, but hopefully the video will help. I'll be straight up with you. Last time we did this, I think we had 3 people that got it right the first time. So even with the video explanation, so I'm expecting everyone to get it all right. But I do know that sometimes people may slip up, especially with the between one. But do notice that in conditional formatting, under highlight cells rules, there is a between, and your things are percents. So maybe you just type 70%, 90% on there. Okay, I'm gonna let you guys try it. But yeah, good. All right. Well, I think that about wraps us up. I'm 3 minutes over. I am sorry for taking your time. I'm gonna be one of those guys. So if you want to stick around, stick around. Otherwise, see you on Wednesday.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Have fun writing. See ya.
I had a question about the last assignment that we did.
Hmm.
So I know that it had said to put your GPA,
Yeah.
but I didn't know my GPA from high school, and then actually don't know my current GPA for college either, so I didn't put it. And I yeah, and I'm kind of scared that it's gonna take a lot of